Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Carl Jung. Part 1. You're too sensitive. Projection as psychological warfare. When a man tells you you're too sensitive, he's not giving feedback, he's planting doubt. That sentence doesn't clarify, it distorts. Your emotional truth, pain, discomfort, intuition, is suddenly reframed as personal failure. And now, instead of asking whether something was hurtful, you're asking whether you're broken. This is emotional gaslighting, and it works silently. No shouting, just gentle manipulation, calm tones with toxic intentions. Carl Jung would identify this as projection, disowned emotions cast onto others to avoid facing one's own internal mess. In his framework, the shadow contains all the feelings we don't want to acknowledge. Instead of confronting emotional immaturity, a man may label your depth as a defect. Your sensitivity is rebranded as irrational. Your insight becomes drama. Your sadness becomes an inconvenience. But that isn't your flaw. It's his. He's uncomfortable with your emotional awareness because he hasn't faced his own. Jung described the persona as the mask we wear to function socially. Many men equate masculinity with control, so vulnerability feels like danger. They won't let themselves feel, so they stop you from feeling too. You're too sensitive becomes a control tactic, silencing your intuition, flattening your inner world. It's not a critique, it's an attempt to pull you into a double bind. If you speak, you're dramatic. If you stay silent, you're cold. Your essence is cast as too much. That's not a relationship. It's spiritual suffocation. Sensitivity, in Jung's view, is not weakness. It's awareness. It's how your unconscious communicates, through mood, shifts, symbols, and gut feelings. So when someone uses it against you, understand, they aren't criticizing you, they're avoiding growth. And if this line keeps showing up in your life, Jung would ask, what part of me believes I must shrink to receive love? Break the cycle. Decide your emotional depth is no longer negotiable. And remember, a man who respects you won't shame your sensitivity. He'll honor it. Part 2. You're overreacting. How emotional truth gets twisted. You're overreacting. 3 small words, 1 huge manipulation. What he's really saying is, your feelings make me uncomfortable, so I'm going to minimize them. This isn't about your volume. It's about his inability to take responsibility. In Jungian terms, this is ego protection. It keeps his fragile identity intact by placing the blame elsewhere, on your emotions. The more he says it, the more you doubt your instincts. You silence your voice, you adapt, you shrink. Jung taught that real intimacy only exists when 2 unconscious realities meet. But someone who invalidates you emotionally is never meeting you. They're managing you. Your overreacting becomes a tool, a shield against shame, a way to shift focus from his behavior to your reaction. And if you were shamed for emotions as a child, this cuts deeper. It echoes the belief that your needs are too much. That's how these words become internalized. You stop trusting your feelings. You wonder if your reality is flawed. But Jung would tell you, healing means making the unconscious conscious. Ask, why do I feel like I need to justify my pain? When you reclaim your emotional experience as valid, you refuse to be controlled by another person's discomfort. And if a man consistently uses this line, he's not relating to you. He's avoiding himself. Walk away from the illusion. You're not overreacting. You're finally reacting to being unseen. Part 3. My ex was crazy. The blame game masked as vulnerability. If he leads with, my ex was crazy, he's not sharing. He's warning. This isn't vulnerability. It's character assassination. Jung would call it a projection of the disowned shadow, the parts of him he cannot admit, repackaged as her insanity. This man hasn't healed. He's rehearsing. And if you stay, you'll become the next crazy ex in his story. The archetype at play here is the blame shifter, someone who can't take ownership, so he makes every woman his scapegoat. What seems like a confession is actually psychological conditioning. He wants you to trust him by mistrusting other women. You're being trained to see him as a victim, so that when he hurts you, you'll blame yourself. And often the women labeled crazy are those who dared to speak truth, who demanded emotional depth, who challenged his mask. He couldn't handle their clarity, so he distorted it. Unless he's done the real work, faced his role, grieved his pain, ended the cycle, this pattern will repeat. Different woman, same projection, same emotional erasure. Ask questions. What did he learn? What did he take responsibility for? If his story is full of blame and none of it's his, step back. You're not his redemption arc. You're not here to compete with ghosts. Part 4. You should be lucky to have me. The illusion of superiority. You should be lucky to have me. This isn't confidence, it's control. It sounds flattering at first, until you realize it's rooted in hierarchy. You're not equal. You're beneath him. Jung would call this narcissistic inflation, a swollen ego compensating for deep insecurity. He needs to feel superior to feel safe. But true security never needs comparison. It knows its own value. This man doesn't want a relationship. He wants a reflection of his own greatness. And the moment you stop reflecting that back, he'll withdraw, criticize, or compare you to someone who did. This isn't love. It's dependency dressed up as dominance. Over time, you start to believe it. You overcompensate. You overgive. You wonder if you really are lucky just to be tolerated. But Jung warned, this is how the self fractures. You stop living from your truth and start living from his standards. His need to feel above you is not strength. It's fear. A fear of being vulnerable. A fear of being seen without the mask. You are not a prize he bestows. You are not here to compete for approval. You are here to be whole. If someone tells you you're lucky to be with them, ask yourself, why do they need to remind you? Because someone who truly values you will show it, not say it to control you. Part 5. You're just like my mother. Emotional transference and loss of identity. When a man says, you're just like my mother, he's not describing you. He's projecting unresolved childhood wounds onto you. In Jungian terms, this is transference. Unconscious emotional content from early relationships being redirected at a current partner. If he hasn't healed from a complicated maternal bond, he may unconsciously reenact that dynamic with you. You stop being yourself. You become a symbol of his past. Emotional boundary. You are not a stand-in for his unfinished business. Your role is not to absorb, fix, or carry his trauma. Set a boundary by affirming your individuality. I'm not her, I'm me, and I won't carry your history. Part 6. Why these words hurt. Because they trigger your shadow. The phrases you've been told, too sensitive, overreacting, crazy ex, etc., don't just come from his shadow, they activate your own. Jung taught that the shadow holds everything we disown in ourselves. Shame, fear, anger, the need to be loved. These manipulative phrases pierce old wounds that already exist inside you. Emotional boundary. Healing begins when you stop accepting external blame for internalized shame. Notice which phrases make you collapse emotionally, and instead of reacting, investigate the wound they touch. That's where your power lies. Part 7. How to respond. From reactivity to soul-centered clarity. Reaction is ego-driven, immediate, defensive, unconscious. Response is soul-driven, grounded, intentional, conscious. Carl Jung emphasized the importance of pausing, witnessing the trigger, and then responding from your integrated self, the part of you that holds your truth without needing approval or retaliation. Emotional boundary. Don't argue to be understood. Stand firm to be respected. Use your response as a boundary-setting tool. Example: if my feelings are being dismissed, this is not a space where I can be emotionally safe. Part 8. Walking away. The ultimate boundary is leaving. Staying in a relationship where you are constantly gaslit, projected on, or emotionally invalidated is a form of spiritual self-abandonment. Jung viewed individuation, the journey to becoming your whole self, as requiring moments of separation. Sometimes the only way to reclaim your dignity is to walk away. Emotional boundary. Walking away is not a weakness. It is an act of sacred self-respect. You are not obligated to stay where your truth is rejected. Your presence is not a gift to someone who cannot see your worth.